Let's just jump right into it. Because it is time for that much anticipated headphone highlight. And as is expected, our featured headphone for today is the HD8XX. We had opened these last week, which was super fun to do. And we are going to now highlight them. I've been listening to them for a week. I put them through, not admittedly all the paces, but as much as I was willing to do within a week. And yeah, we got a little bit to talk about. I'm excited. I will mention, because I am trying to be good about uploading some of this stuff to YouTube as well, just because, you know, Twitch deletes it after a while. So I have already the unboxing video for this headphone on the YouTube channel. I will update when I upload this. I will include, so if you're watching this video right here of this headphone highlight on YouTube right now, there should be a link in the description of this video to the unboxing video of these headphones. Okay, now that I got that out of the way, we already talked in the unboxing a little bit about the construction, but so we'll go over it fairly quickly. But let's take a better look at these again with their, you know, Imperial Star Wars Imperial industrial design, which personally I think is pretty cool. Yeah, we do have some plastic bits, which again, that's okay. If this whole headphone was made of metal, it'd be way too heavy. So this is not just a cost-saving measure, this is a weight-saving measure, this decision. So yeah, we got some plastic bits, but the mesh here is metal, and this silver wire mesh is also a metal wire mesh. You can see the back of the driver here. So these are very, very open headphones. These drivers are 56 millimeter drivers, which, according to Sennheiser's description of these videos on their website, are the largest dynamic drivers in any headphone. I'm not sure that's true, but that's what they claim. So, Mondo drivers, bigger than anything else we have here. The headband is a spring steel headband that is on the underside coated in. I looked up what this stuff was because it was wowing me so much before. This material, which is the same material that the stock pads have, they Sennheiser calls it just their microfiber cloth. So it's a microfiber, which is why it feels so dang soft. It doesn't feel the same kind of microfiber as like, you know, like a lens cleaning cloth would be. It feels a lot more suede. So it's very, very, very soft to the touch. There's not a whole lot of padding up here, but what is there is very, very soft and very plush. The pads. So you'll notice that these pads look a little different than last time. I did put on the Dakoni pads. These are the Dakoni first. I'm gonna mispronounce this. First. Ugh. 1 second. If I don't have the word right in front of me, I'm not going to pronounce it correctly. Fenestrated sheepskin pads. See if I can get that in the camera here a little bit better. So yeah, so you'll notice they got these little perforations in there. So that kind of helps a little bit with the breathing, and it helps a little bit with the kind of tuning that you're getting when you swap the pads out. They are significantly thicker than the stock pads, and they're very, very soft, very plush, very slow moving memory foam in there. And this leather, this sheepskin leather, is very, very soft, very smooth. We'll talk a little bit more about the pads later, but the stock pads, again, same material as the headband up here. They are, as Sennheiser's website puts it, handmade microfiber pads. So they are a lot thinner than these, but they're still very soft. Don't have a whole lot of padding, but the material on there is very soft. What else? The cable we've talked a bit about. It is still very difficult to take the freaking cable out of the port and so forth. This is not the stock cable, obviously. This is a Heart Audio cable, which I got because, unfortunately, the 8XXs do not come with a balanced cable. I have an alternative, so it didn't bother me too much. The termination for the cable, once again, is unfortunately this stupid proprietary HD800 Sennheiser cable. It's dumb. I wish they wouldn't do that, but it is what it is. Because they do that, it means you do have to go with a third-party cable modder if you want to get replacement cables, and not, just purchase the Sennheiser cables, which are fine, but not to my taste. We'll put it that way. How big are the drivers? All I'm seeing is COS KO727B have 89 millimeter drivers. What? The COS KO727B have 89 millimeter drivers. Are they dynamic drivers? So that's the difference, because planar drivers often can be bigger. Dynamic drivers, maybe not so much. That's according to some chat room. Interesting. I don't know. I've never heard of that. I've never heard of the COS KO727B. I like COS. I like COS's stuff. Their lower end stuff. Not their lower end stuff. Their affordable stuff. COS's affordable stuff is kick ass. But this other thing I've never heard of. These are 56 millimeter drivers. Certainly not 89 millimeters. That sounds ridiculously huge. So yeah, they're constructed very, very well. They're fairly light in the hand. The material used for the pads and for the headband is very, very soft and very pleasing. The plastic is high quality and soft. The metal parts of the construction are they're totally fine. There's nothing super duper fancy in terms of the construction here, other than this design, this D-shaped gigantic ear cup design. So there's not a whole lot of fancy. There's no fancy wood. There's no fancy super metals or whatever. It's just kind of a very purposeful build, put it that way. But I like it. I like the build. It's a good build. Very good build. Particularly with the headphone adjustment mechanism, which has this satisfying clicky. It's really good. It's very stable, very robust. I dig it. Did I ever get that wrong? I did. Boop. Put that back there. Yeah, that seems about right. Whatever. So yeah, build. Great build. Comfort. Cloud system. Our cloud system. How many clouds do the HXXs earn? So in the unboxing video, I put these on and just shouted wow to the heavens. So that might speak a bit to itself. Obviously, I'm using the Tacony pads right now, but I'm going to talk at the moment as if I was just using the stock pads. With the stock pads, putting these on, it might seem a bit of an exaggeration, but legitimately, it was as if all the weight that they had when I was holding them disappeared. They just all of a sudden weighed almost nothing, and the comfort shocked me. I couldn't believe how comfortable they were, and I still can't. They're incredibly comfortable. After wearing them for a week, most of that week I wore these with the stock pads, and I don't have really any complaints about how they are with the stock pads, other than, you know, the pads are very thin, so that leads them to, they're not uncomfortable pads. They just can, at certain points, because of the way this design is, this is a D shape, so it kind of like right here at the bottom of the D, particularly with those stock pads, it can kind of not dig in, but put a bit of pressure right here on your lower jaw, because these are just so huge. They're so big. Look how much surface area is on the side of my face right now. My ear is at the very back of this pad. So this is the back of my ear here. That means that there's this entire distance from here all the way to here that's touching my face, the side of my head. So that's a lot of surface space. It makes it very comfortable in terms of the how it sits on your head. And there's, again, I should have mentioned earlier, there's almost no clamp force with these headphones. They have the same kind of clamp force that the Schiff 9500s have, which is very, very, very minimal. Makes them very comfortable, but with the stock pads, makes them very loose. But even with that very minimal clamping force, they do, because of their size, where the pads sit on your head, can make not pressure points, not hot spots, but just certain spots where there's just a tiny bit of force. I don't really want to use that word because it's really not. It's not forceful. It's not painful. It just, you know, I can very much tell that there is something on my lower jaw here, even with the default pads. So, no jaw pressure. That's a fatal. That's fatal for me for comfort, says Lady Marslander. I get it. Totally get it. It's not really pressure. It's just because it's so big, the pad, the surface area here is so much. You just know it's there. You can feel it being there. It may not be necessarily pushing on it, but it's an area, at least for me, with most headphones, most headphones don't reach this far down. So it just feels a little odd, I'll say, a little odd to feel it down here. So why do I have the Tacony pads on? The Tacony pads, much thicker, much more plush. So they do, because of that, offer some benefits. Because there's so little padding in the default pads, you're dealing with a very flat. This is very, very flat, right, by itself. If I squeeze on it, sure, it'll form. But this right here is very, very flat. And the default pads are very, very thin. So when you put it on your head, there's not really anything to form to. Like see how it's forming on my fingers here? Because the default pads are so thin, it doesn't really have much to form to. So what you end up having is, you know, say the kind of the curve, because no one has just a flat brick face, right? People have some curve to their head. So what happens with the default pads is you have a curved surface for the side of someone's head and a totally flat cup, and it's doing kind of this. This is an exaggeration, of course, but it's kind of doing this, where it's not really forming to your head. It's more kind of resting on your head and kind of having some spacing issues, where it might be a little, maybe it's a little, you have a little extra space up top, maybe you have a little extra space underneath, maybe a little extra space in the front, maybe a little in the back, or all around. It's going to differ depending on your head shape. So with these Taconia pads, because they're so much thicker and they're soft, they much better form to your head, which creates a better seal. I mean, they're open pads, so that doesn't really matter that much, but they create a better seal. And I'm sorry, not open pads. They're very, very open headphones. But they do create a better seal. And because there's a little bit of that seal, while there's still very little clamp force, it sticks to your head a lot better. Because now these pads are really kind of sucking on my head a little bit. So I'm not as worried about these falling off as I would be with the stock pads. So, yeah, the comfort does improve in the cups with these pads. However, and I kind of hesitate to say this, I don't know if I was just very, very hyper aware of it the last couple of days. But what I noticed once I put these pads on, these Taconia pads, and I, comparing immediately after I was wearing these for, 4 days with the default pads, I immediately noticed that I felt a very little bit, but I felt some pressure at the very top of my head from the headband. And I believe the reason for that is that these pads do add a very minor amount of weight to the headphones. And whatever the situation is, that weight gets transferred even the slightest at the top of the head. It is not enough for me to say, don't get the Taconias and make them too uncomfortable. It's just something that I definitely noticed. It went from me, having these headphones on and not noticing the headband at all to putting these pads on, and now all of a sudden, oh yeah, I have a headband. I could feel it up there now. So it's a little bit of a, take it one way or take it the other way. Do you want more comfort here, or do you want more comfort up here? Is kind of what I'm getting at here. They're very, very comfortable either way. They're just going to have more comfort depending on what type of pads you have. So I'm going to grade the comfort of these the same with the default pads versus the Taconia pads, just that comfort is being graded in different ways. They are incredibly comfortable, and when they're on your head, they are incredibly light. Where should I put them? They're still not the most comfortable headphones I have worn, but they're really, really close to it. They're, especially when you consider the size of these things, they are amazingly comfortable headphones. And I am not taking back my reaction from when the unboxing. They still wow me by how comfortable they are. I'm going to give them a 8.5 clouds. They have an 8.5 cloud comfort. Almost a 9. They're just not, they're not quite at the 9 yet. They're not quite there. They're really, really close. But it's just some of these other headphones have just a little bit more overall comfort. But these are pretty freaking amazing for comfort. I cannot express that enough. Okay. So now we get to talk about the fun stuff, the stuff that everyone's losing their shit over. How do they sound? I'm going to start this by saying, as I did in the unboxing, I have not heard the 800Ss. Okay, I have not heard them. I cannot compare these to the 800Ss. That being said, if you're still willing to listen and give me a chance here, I might be able to provide a little bit of insight into what I think is happening. So, I'll mention again that there was a controversy with these headphones. 9 is the highest? No, 9 is not the highest rating of comfort we've had so far was 9.5. 9.5 clouds. That was for the was that for the Monoprice Retros? It might have been. Because man, are those comfortable. I don't know if anything's ever going to hit 10. I'll say that right now. I don't know if anything's going to be able to hit 10 clouds, but because there's always room for improvement, you know, that kind of thing. Anyway, the controversy surrounding these headphones is that when the final tuning went out to some reviewers, a couple reviewers started measuring the headphones, and their measurements revealed that there was a very serious valley in the 2000 hertz range. And when you're looking at a graph, when you're looking at a frequency response graph, that looks pretty bad. And a lot of people started to freak out about that. And rightfully so. It's a scary thing to see. And some people are saying, oh, you know, it's very polarizing. Some people are saying, I don't hear that. I don't hear that big valley. It's not a problem. Some people are saying the valley is so bad that the headphones are... They're even going so far as... Some people are going so far as saying that they are unlistenable, which I'll tell you right now is absolutely ridiculous. Some people are saying that this valley, this weird sound signature in the high end, is causing some veiling over particularly the vocal range. The vocals sound like they are veiled. Veiling is like what it sounds. It is as if something is obscuring the sound. So something is obscuring the vocals. Vocals that should sound a certain way sound muffled, as if there's like a sheet placed over them. That's veiling. It is veiled. And that's a descriptor that some people are using for what they're hearing with this. That the vocal ranges, particularly with female vocals, sounds veiled. So I disagree with that. And I'll explain why. The big thing that you are gaining from these headphones, and I believe it is the same with the 800s and it's the same with the 800Ss. The thing that these headphones do better than almost any other headphone, at least any headphone that I've heard for sure, is these have otherworldly soundstage. The soundstage of these is unbelievably wide. It sounds like it's just everywhere. Everywhere. It is unreal how far away the soundstage is. It is so immersive. It's really, really incredible. Incredibly wide. Widest soundstage I have ever heard. And that's the case for all the 800 series headphones. They're known for that. They're known for having this incredible soundstage. And these are no exception to that. The soundstage is unbelievable. So what I believe, it took me a bit because I'll say I put these through my gauntlet of music, and I was paying particularly close attention to that kind of 2 to 3,000 hertz frequency range, trying to see if I could hear anything. And in particular, I put these really focused on and A/B tested these while listening to the Nier Automata soundtrack, which has many tracks with varying female vocalists of varying ranges. And I know that soundtrack inside and out. Amazing game, by the way. Nier Automata is a freaking phenomenal game. I know those tracks inside and out. Oh yeah, yeah. You can probably tell I like Nier Automata. Anyway, and there's a good range of female vocals in that soundtrack. And some of the songs in that soundtrack are particularly bright. I mean, really, really bright. Too hot sometimes. So I know what they sound like. I know those songs inside and out. I know how they should sound. Should sound to me how I know them. I should say. And I know how they sound with some other of my favorite headphones. So I A/B tested these against, my LCDs, my ethers, my HP3s. I put them through the gauntlet against the headphones that I trust the most with that particular soundtrack, and compared. What was I hearing? Was I hearing that big valley? Was it causing issues? Were things missing? Was there a veiling happening? Was detail getting lost? And here's what I think is happening. When something is being veiled, it means it's being obscured. It means you're losing something. If the vocals are veiled, something is obscuring those vocals, something is muffling those vocals. So you're losing something. Maybe you're losing detail, you're losing clarity, you're losing something. Right? That makes sense. I don't think that there's any veiling happening, because I still hear everything that I hear with everything else. I still hear clarity. I still hear imaging. I still hear separation. I still hear unbelievable detail. More detail than I've heard in almost anything else. And what I think is happening is not an issue of things getting veiled, but an issue of not an issue. It's not an issue. It's just what's happening. These have amazing soundstage. So the soundstage is so amazing that it is even pushing back those vocals. The vocals maintain the detail and the clarity that they do with my LCDs, which I trust the most for that soundtrack. I trust those LCDs the most for that soundtrack. I still hear everything that I hear in the LCDs, but it is as if there was a physical distance change. The vocalist, the singer, literally sounds physically further away from me when I'm hearing it with these headphones. I hear everything the same. She is just further away. So I think it's a soundstage thing. She's not muffled. If anything, she sounds even more clearer than she maybe ever has. It's almost as if with everything else, with the LCDs, the headphones that I trust the most for that soundtrack, it still sounds like she is singing into a microphone. And I'm hearing that recording in immaculate detail, but I'm hearing that recording of her singing into that microphone. With these, it sounds like she's singing directly to me. And she sounds like she is over there. Not right here in a very intimate singing to me through a recording, but she is over there and she's singing directly at me. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like the vocalists are physically further away from you, not veiled. And I think that's the difference. I think that's an important distinction, because I can't. To me, it does not sound like I'm losing anything. I'm not losing clarity. I feel like, if anything, I'm getting more of it. So I think it's important to make that distinction. It's not, to me, it's not veiled. It's just further away. Hush. I don't know if you can hear that. There's someone outside with a motorcycle. How is that even possible? I don't know, man. I don't know. It's a trip. It's wild, because with so many headphones, I know those tracks, to have those singers, right here. Even with my very wide soundstage headphones, they're still like right here. They're singing to me, and I can hear it all, for better or for worse, because sometimes those tracks can get really, really hot. But with this is the first time I've ever felt like they were just in the room with me. So it's amazing. I might make that clear. I love that is what's happening. I think it sounds amazing. So let's talk about a few other things that are happening, and with the headphone in general. I wouldn't call them warm necessarily. I know a lot of people say they're warmer than the 800Ss, but I haven't heard 800Ss. I can't make that comparison. But they're very, very pleasing, but they're still very, very accurate, and extremely high detail, extremely precise imaging, and unreal soundstage. So these are now genuinely one of the best sounding headphones I own. I'm not afraid to admit that. These are one of the best sounding headphones I own now. Are they as good as the 800Ss? I don't know. But to say that they're unlistenable is absurd. That's just hating. That's just jumping on the hate train. That is an absurd statement. These are wonderful headphones. Wonderful. I have all these things to compare them to that I know very, very well, that I love and adore. And I can say confidently that these are now one of the best sounding headphones that I own for my tastes. So, yeah. Perhaps the answer to what's happening, maybe the answer is, there's what do you call it? Maybe there's an issue with the way things are being the production run, right? Maybe there's quality control problems and people are getting different sounding headphones. I suppose that's possible. Maybe the reviewers that were having these problems were actually reviewing a different tuned headphone. Well, that's possible. Maybe people's hardware setup, the amplifiers and the DACs they're using, just don't pair well with the headphone. Hey, that's also possible. What I think the answer is, I think the answer to what's happening is that what people like to hear is subjective. I know that's not a satisfying answer. I know that's boring, but I really think that's kind of what's happening here. Everyone has their own tastes. They have their own expectation of what they want from their headphone. And when you're jumping into this range of audiophile, and you're spending this kind of money, and you're approaching this kind of legacy, you're really going to be scrutinizing it, and you're really going to be hitting hard and nicking on the points that really matter to you. So if you really like low-end bass, you're going to be looking for that. If you really like mid-range clarity, you're going to be looking for that. If you really like that treble imaging, that treble detail, you're going to be looking for that. And I think that really the majority of this polarization that people are experiencing right now with this headphone is a subjective thing. People are really hitting it hard because of what it is, an 800 series Sennheiser, and the price bracket that's in. That's what I think is happening. That's my 2 cents. So I love them. I do not plan to return them in any way, shape, or form. I think they're great. The one thing I never got around to being able to do with them, though, which is I regret because I wish I could talk about it, but I'm going to try and do that. Maybe mention it down the road. Is I haven't tried these with a tube amplifier yet. I got some tubes. I want to try them out. I hear that they're supposed to sound even more phenomenal with tubes, so I'll try that. But yeah, man, Sennheiser HD8XXs, controversy or not, I think they are absolutely worth it. If you're willing to be in that level of, I don't want to say that level of an audiophile because that's a subjective thing in and of itself as well. You could be an audiophile on the budget. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars to be an audiophile. But, you know, whatever. That level of consumer, whatever you want to call it, okay? I think it's worth it. I think they're great. And hopefully that means something to you. I don't know. So there's that. Elephant is now out of the room. And we can get back to the game. But I don't know. I think they're really undeserving of the kind of hate train that's been going on around these. I think that sucks because I think people are really missing out on a really great headphone. I think if, you know, it's one of those things where you shouldn't doubt it until you try it. And I know that's very hard with really high-end headphones because not everyone has access to a high-end audio store where they can go and try on headphones, you know? So that's a hard thing to be able to say, but it really is. This is a situation where if you can try them, you should, because you shouldn't judge them just off of some graphs that a couple people are talking about. Okay? You really shouldn't judge any headphone on graphs either way, but still. Try them. I love them. But that doesn't mean you have to. Okay. Let me catch up on the chat here. I could see why that would make people think the veiling. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But there is a difference. The scale should be moved to out of 9. Well then, nah. No, because we're not changing it. It's out of 10. Good take. Glad you like them. Like techno music. Yeah, like techno music. Very subjective. Okay. Back to the game, everyone. Thank you for sticking around for the rant. Not rant. The chat. Thanks for sticking around for the chat. Okay. Let's move on and go have a little chat with Warlord O'Keir.